So you're in Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic on a trip with some friends. You decide to go ride some ATVs, and all of a sudden you fall off of your ATV and you injure your leg. What do? Well, first, hopefully you've read the disclaimers and the waivers on the form that you signed before you roll those ATVs to understand what the ATV company is and isn't liable for. Secondly, hopefully you have purchased some travel insurance with your travel advisor before you went on this trip. Why is that important? A lot of people don't think that travel insurance is important. A lot of people feel like it's a waste of money. But do you feel like your car insurance is a waste of money? Do you feel like the car insurance is only good if you get in an accident? Isn't it to protect, to make you feel safe just in case you get in an accident? Regardless of how you feel about it, travel insurance is a must have when you're taking a trip, especially out of the country. Now, of course, if you're traveling from state to state, when you book a flight, they ask you, do you want to protect your trip for a nominal cost? And that's good too. That includes some medical insurance, some lost and delayed luggage coverage, and things of that sort. But when you're traveling out of the country, you want to make sure you're protective in case something like an ATV accident, you're riding in the transportation and whoever's driving it gets in an accident, or just in case you're stuck in a country for days because of something that's happening in the world that is out of your control. Whatever the case is, you want to make sure you have travel insurance. Now, there's some things you should know when considering purchasing travel insurance. You may think, oh, if I have travel insurance, I'll call them. And if I need it while I'm traveling, they'll pay for everything right away. That's not how that works. The same with car insurance. Sometimes you have a deductible first. Sometimes you may need to cover some things yourself and then get reimbursed. But regardless of how it works. And it helps in a lot of the situations you might incur while you're traveling. Did you know that if you have medical insurance in the States, when you're traveling out of the country, that does not apply. So don't think just because you have medical insurance out of the States, if you travel, that everything will be taken care of. And of course, the biggest thing to consider is the medical treatment you may get in the United States is not the same as you get out of the country. And I'm not necessarily saying it's going to be better. There's language barriers. There's maybe the inability to advocate for yourself in certain situations. And there may be lack of certain medicines and treatment depending on where you are. You got to consider if you need to be med-vac in the airplane to get to a hospital, depending on where you're vacationing at. All those things come into play, and you want to make sure you're covered. You got to read your travel insurance documents before you travel. Make sure that whoever you're traveling with knows where you are all the time. So if something happens, they can reach out to the appropriate people to notify them so you can get the treatment that you need. And then make sure somebody back home knows where you are. So if they need to call your travel insurance or advocate for medical treatment on your behalf, they can attempt to do so. The moral of the story, travel insurance is important. But you gotta know it does not mean that they're gonna pay everything right away up front and you're gonna get A1 treatment off the bat. Of course, there's different levels of travel insurance. If you travel all the time and you want to buy travel insurance for a year or a certain number of months, you can always do that. But if you just want to purchase it trip to trip, you can do that as well. But I would advise, and I always advise my clients to have travel insurance, whether you're purchasing a resort only or a hotel only type of trip, or you're traveling out of the country, even if you're traveling state to state most times, because if something happens, you need to cancel your trip, or you get sick and you're eating at the restaurant, at the hotel or the resort, you get sick. You want to be able to get the treatment. You want to be able to be reimbursed for certain things. And of course, there are stipulations for every situation. So I won't go into the specifics because it's going to depend on the type of insurance you have, what company you have, and what that coverage entails. Nonetheless, make sure before you travel that you have travel insurance. Plain and simple.